Unmute. Thank you, Siddhi. Well, let's take just a couple of moments to center ourselves. Let's close our eyes. And just feel the seat, the chair, the floor, whatever is under you. Feel the groundedness and the steadiness of the surface that you're sitting upon or lying down upon if you're lying down. That we do have stability in our lives, even in this uncertain time where things are changing, we do have stability under us. Our footing need not be threatened. So let's use that stability to join our circle this morning. And let's imagine each of the women that's here and those that cannot be with us this morning, that we're in this circle of light, of this just luscious, illuminating light that's connecting us with a warmth and an energy and a field that's around us that has stability. And that we can tap into this stability at any time during our day that we need, that it's not elusive. It's part of the co-creation that we have in our life of finding ways that we can be safe. We have ways, we are finding those, we've created those, and this circle is a safe place for us. So just take a moment to connect into this circle, to plug yourself into this circle. So that whatever comes through this circle with love and intention and compassion might be available to each of us. And that we might feel the stability that is part of our lives already as part of this circle and part of this teaching today. And if you need additional support today, place yourself in the middle of this circle, knowing that the support is very readily available and heartily given, and receive that which is offered to you with love and light. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes.
And then from here, we bring our palms together. We're bowing towards the heart. And taking a few deep breaths consciously into the 4 chambers of our heart. And then we tune in with 3 Aums. Inhale deeply. Inhale and suspend your breath. And we exhale. We bring our palms forward, thumbs go inside. We make a fist and we just gently hit our chest region while we are humming like So do your humming, because humming is really calming for the heart. It's great for the vibration to go through your body. We mentioned the lymph before. This is a great way to activate the thymus gland and the lymph in our upper chest region. And just hum. Humming is so healing. Yeah? And we all can do this everywhere. I love that most of the things for our body are actually very simple. Wake up the supportive police in your body, your lymph, just for a little bit longer. Then we will work for our arteries, our thymus, and our heart with the following movements. Good, and just place your hands for a moment onto your thymus gland. Stay here, inhale through your nose, exhale, open mouth. Good. So the next one is very simple posture. You bring your arms straight forward, lower them. Your fingers are absolutely spread. That's your inhale. On the exhale, with the thumb outside, you make a fist and you bring your elbows back. So it's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's great for your heart, great for your arteries, great for your thymus. Inhale, exhale. Spread your fingers, make a fist, thumb outside. Powerful breath. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Sometimes we can't walk a lot, or we have no way to work out a lot, but you can work for your heart. You can work for your arteries and your thymus just by working your arms. And we can do this at our desk, everywhere. All breath is through the nostrils. So we do a 3-part cardio workout this morning, just with our arms. One more minute. Make sure you spread your fingers so that you feel the web in between each finger. Doing great. Just a little bit more. Good. Inhale here now, where you hold your fist. Exhale, open mouth. I don't know how you feel, but I am already warm. So we bring our arms up. We do the same here. Fingers are spread wide apart, yeah? As wide as you can. And then you bring the fists down and thumbs are outside. It's like inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And keep going. Our great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers didn't really have heart attacks. Well, that wasn't in that era because they moved their arms a lot. They were hanging up the clothes, taking it down, carrying it. So we pull right now just on air. Last 2 minutes. So these are 9 minutes that could absolutely can keep you healthy heart-wise. Spread your fingers. Then you bring your arms up. Last minute. If it's heavy for your arms, that's actually an alarm sign, yeah? So then I invite you to do this every day until it becomes easy. That you remove any blockages and deposits that could hinder the circulation process within your body. Inhale up. Exhale, sweep out to the side. Fingers spread here. Make a fist, thumb outside, hit your chest. Inhale, exhale, last round. And share this with people who suffer from circulatory challenges. Most people can do this, and you can have them start with 1 minute for each section. Always remember the heart is, it harbors the essence of our joy. Last 2 minutes. And now you probably feel already much more awake. Good, we go for 1 more minute and that's it. When I get a little tired, I always remember that my heart is beating for me around 100,000 times in 24 hours. Huh? So I can do one more minute. Last 15 seconds. Good, and we inhale, we bring the arms out to the side, palms facing forward. Exhale, open mouth. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. And then we rest our hands onto our knees, palms facing upward. And just for 1 minute, I want us to inhale for the count of 4 through the nose. Exhale through the count of 6 through the open mouth. So we inhale, we count to 4 mentally. Exhale through the open mouth, we count to 6. This is a calming breath. And then relax your breath. Just be present for how you feel right now. And then slowly open your eyes.
Good morning to my beautiful ladies. Today, we're going to speak a bit about, we're going to continue the Buddhist Eightfold Path in the Four Noble Truths, but we're going to weave it in today to absolute and relative truth and how our heart is the major player in our capacity to sit with absolute and relative truth. So in all the traditions, not just Buddhist, absolute truth is the unchanging, the eternal, that which you can count on to be happening now and tomorrow and into the future. It's not something that's predicated on whatever the circumstances are for today. And relative truth is what's happening in this moment for us or in our lives. But relative truth is also a very elusive container because we spend a lot of time mentally, our mind, drawing conclusions to what is currently happening to us, around us, through us, and spinning it in a way that makes sense for us, adding logic. And as we all know, logic is not the final determinator of what is true. Logic can draw us down a path which is not accurate at all into relative truth. It just gives our mind some solace in how a puzzle piece might fit in. But ultimately, we see that was not the correct puzzle piece. So how do we stay in relative truth in our lives day to day? How do we take the responsibility and create the ambiance for us to be in the experience of what is true? This is our liberation. When we can sit in the reality of what is happening in and around us, we have complete freedom, because there's no need for us to construct some sort of a situation where we can believe one thing or another. We're just with what is. And so the question becomes, how do we discipline our body, mind, spirit to be able to hold relative truth? Because we know from the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism that the first truth is that life in the embodied form is suffering. It's filled with suffering. And the reason that it's filled with suffering is that life is dynamic, ever-changing, fluid. And as things change, we have loss from what we expected something to be, from the way we had gotten used to it, to what we desire, that we lose the flexibility, the plasticity. We lose the plasticity to be in relative truth, because we want things, certain things, not all things. We want certain things to stay the way they are. They're pleasurable. They suit us. They take care of us. But when we recognize as an absolute truth that all things are changing except the eternal, which may be changing, but it has a depth to it that stays constant. When we have the recognition that this is truth in our life, that we are dynamic beings that are changing and everything around us is changing at the same time, when we accept that, then we move into a place of freedom. That's our liberation. Because now there's no fear necessary. If we have learned to sit with what is, we most certainly have sat with grief and failure and disappointment. So we no longer have to fear. We sat with it and we've survived to the other side. We have tools, we have resources, we have resiliency to sit with the things that we would label more unpleasant. We can do that. We already know that. We just prefer not to, as a preference. And preferences are fine. But if our preference keeps us from acknowledging what really is, what the truth is, then we can't be liberated, because we always know, in the deepest side of us, we always know that we're hedging, that we're not really accepting it. We're just creating another truth in our mind that makes it palatable and acceptable. But we're not really accepting the deepest part of whatever this truth is, because it's painful or uncomfortable or disturbing. But when we start noticing how in life we are handling all of these disturbing, upsetting, uncomfortable, and challenging times and challenging events, we start to have a sense of empowerment. We start to understand that we are strong enough and we are capable of holding all that's necessary for us to hold. All that can come to us, no matter how large it is, we'll make it to the other side, because we have support and because we have disciplines and because we have the necessary tools in our life. So we can choose to be in absolute and relative truth at all times. From a Buddhist perspective, once we have chosen to live into relative truth, we have right understanding. Everything shifts in how we see the world and how we experience it. And the joy that we're talking about just emanates, because we no longer have to hold fear. Fear grasps our lives in a way that makes us unable to live into joy. And the only reason we're in fear is because we have a fear of things changing, something happening that we don't want to have happen, or something going away that we don't want to have go away, or something being added that we don't want to have added. So after nearly 8 months of various stages of lockdown, coronavirus protocol, layers and layers have been stripped away in our lives. Each of you could write in a journal, 10 ways that your life has been inextricably changed in the last 8 months. From emotional to financial to logistics. How many of us have children living with us that perhaps were not before? How our families and our day-to-day life has expanded and changed, or we have loved ones that are far away from us that we're concerned about. Everything has changed. And if we try to use our mind to give an explanation to this, we will fail, because there's not a logic that's being held in coronavirus that's going to give us solace. There's not a logic in why our universe as we know it is being challenged in this way. So we have to come at life through this situation, as in all, with a different perspective. And the perspective is through our heart space. So right understanding in the Buddhist tradition uses heart space. They use the metta meditation, which many of you have probably practiced, loving kindness. And it's loving kindness for ourselves, and it's loving kindness to be brought into the world for all sentient beings. And when we establish ourselves in loving kindness as a practice, as our discipline, how we see, if that becomes our lens through which we see the world, then everything changes for us. And the capacity that we have for understanding and living into and accepting relative truth shifts. And we no longer have to use the energy to contain relative truth and make it something other than what it is. It's actually a huge release. Once we can accept things for how they really are, then we use our tools to do whatever we need to be able to deal with what is. It's not about changing what is, it's about us learning how to live with what is. The change is inside of us, not outside of us. So if we want to live into this heart space and have the right understanding that the Buddhist tradition is talking about, we have to have the way that we construct our lives reflect what we want the outside of our life to look like. So if we want our lives to be inspiring and compassion filled and filled with devotion, we have to be inspirational. We have to be compassionate. We have to be devotional. We have to start inside in our heart space and bring forth that which we want to see in the world. And then the right understanding is just truth, relative or absolute. And it really doesn't matter, because we're changing things internally. And that internal shift then has an impact on the external world. And we may take our internal truths that we have sourced through our heart space into the world, and how we behave and how we act and how we construct external circumstances will change. And we'll become custodians in a different way. But we have to embody the qualities and the attributes that we want to bring into the world. And our heart space brings those qualities and attributes to light. Our mind doesn't. We can't think ourselves into compassion. We can't think ourselves into inspiration. We can't think ourselves into joy. It arises in us. It comes forth through us, not as a mental construct. So today we practice these heart exercises that Siddhi gave us. And I don't know, she says they're about our heart, but today they felt like they were about my arms, quite honestly. But I believe her, it's about my heart. But those kinds of exercises and disciplines show our entire being that we have a commitment to our heart space. I hear some beautiful music, but I don't know where it's coming from.
I can't hear you. Go on.
There we go. I don't know. There was some beautiful music that just came in on its own.
My mistake.
Huh?
That was my mistake. Go on.
I was like, wow, the angels are singing. How did that happen? That's okay. It's good. It was beautiful. So understanding our relationship between our behavior and our ability to manifest is inherently part of the right understanding. Karma is part of that. So most people look at karma and they think, if I do something good, I will reap good. If I do something bad, something will happen to me in retribution, so that it all balances out. Yes, that there's a possibility of that. When you walk in negative space, you tend to get more negative space. So that is what it is. But karma is really about aligning ourselves with the truth of the universe, with universal law. And when we align ourselves in that way, then things are more easily kept with ease. It's just true. So thinking I'll do this because I want something in return will negate the whole karmic process. If our mind gets involved in our karma and draws conclusions that we do and don't do things because we have fear that it might come back, or we have anticipation that we might get more of it, is not going to produce it in the same way. That's not really karma. That's our mind setting up a construct of sort of equality. And that works in life, but it's not the real understanding of karma. Karma has to come from our heart space, where our behaviors are so in alignment with the natural flow of life that naturally we get into that pool. And when we're in that pool, we're reaping different benefits. So staying in the heart space, meditating with the heart space as our goal, exercising with the heart space is part of the discipline that we use, so that right understanding, as we interpret it from the Buddhist tradition, allows us to sit with the knowing that there is suffering. That's an eternal truth, an absolute truth. And there's relative truth of suffering in our lives that comes and goes. It's fluid, it ebbs and flows. But that if we can sit with that relative truth, even when it's uncomfortable and painful, and we use our heart space to support us, that we can move into liberation and into joy. Then we can start experiencing joy because of the freedom that we've constructed in our life. When we construct our life with freedom, there are no boundaries. There's nothing stopping you. And your heart space is the portal to that. If we interpret the Eightfold path, which we're going to go through a bit each week, with the lens of our heart space, not the lens of our logic, we'll live into an entirely different space, and we'll experience life in an entirely different way. So I invite you in this next week to imagine that everything that you see and you do and you interpret is coming through the lens of your heart space. Your heart space. How does your heart space show up? It's unique to you. And how is your heart space? If you journal, it's a wonderful thing to journal about. How do you intersect with your heart space in your daily life? Where does it rise and where does it fall? Is it a breath? Is your heart space a breath? Is it an inhale and an exhale? Is it a constancy? What is it? I invite you to explore this next week and really sit with yourself in honesty in the relative truth of how you are in relationship with your heart space. Not how you'd like to be, or not in a judgment of how I haven't been good enough or thoughtful enough or whatever, but in the truth of how you are and where you can be with that. And allow that heart space to permeate your movement for this next week. And in that, there will be joy moments, absolutely, that will pop up. I turn it over to you, Siddhi. I don't know where Siddhi went.
I think she dropped off.
She didn't like the relative truth. Well, I'm sure she'll come back because Siddhi is never far away. Let's look for her. Maybe she's having an internet issue. I don't know. Well, while that's happening, I'm going to unmute you all, and I'm going to invite you, if I can do that, unmute. I'm going to invite anyone who would like to make a comment about the heart space and moving your life through the lens of your heart space. You can unmute yourself, I believe. Yeah, unmute yourself if you would like to contribute something to how it is that your heart space has been a part of how you've experienced, let's just say how you're experiencing this COVID. Oh, Siddhi's back. Siddhi? You have to unmute yourself, love.
Everything's shut down here. So, okay, go ahead, hon.
I was just asking if there was anyone who would like to contribute or comment on how it is with this, the challenges of COVID, how their heart space has been threatened or challenged or stretched.
I think my heart space has been stretched and challenged, and I'm very aware of the days when I'm not coming from my heart because everything's a struggle. But when I do come from my heart, then it just is. And it's been very helpful because every day is certainly a new day right now.
Yeah, how beautiful to recognize that and acknowledge it and test it. It's another one of our testing things about our intuition. So here's a test about how our heart space works. You watch it, and when it shows up, you see how are the results. How is that working for me? And then we can look inside of ourselves. How do we adjust for ourselves? What's required for us to walk in that path? Is there anyone else who would like to contribute how that's affecting them?
I think for me, it's my heart space is I try to find one thing at the end of the day that I can be thankful for. And just one thing, like just one aha moment that comes to me, throughout the day. There's not many of those, but I look for them sincerely. So for me, that seems to get me through that day into the next day. So it's just finding that one thing that felt good.
Thank you, Elaine. Yeah. So taking the time to recognize that's the gratitude practice. How we find something to be in gratitude for and note it. Really take the time to acknowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
I've got some comments.
Okay, Deborah.
Good morning. It's been an extraordinary morning. First of all, I hurt my knee yesterday and I haven't had a way. I was thinking this morning, how am I going to do cardio? Here we go. So first of all, thank you to Siddhi and Nick, Nirmala. It's like you were talking to me. I mean, you described my COVID, adult son living with me, worried about an adult son not living with me. And then just stuff coming up, 8 months living in such close quarters. I've been doing some as you know, some mystical Jewish study, and the basic character trait is chesed, which means love, and rachamim, which is compassion. But I need to go back where you started, because for me, and it's something that came up, someone pointed out that the first thing that God in the Jewish Torah, or maybe Christian, says to Adam and Eve is Vayikra, where are you? And in a mystical sense, that really means, where are you? And so for me, in all the worry and all that, if I sit down and say, where am I? And try and connect with those feelings, and then I'm trying really hard not to try and push those feelings and sit with them. And that's a challenge for me, not to try and change them. Like you're saying, it's hard. And so now you brought me the next step in this process, although I still need to work on this process because I always want to control and change everything. That has been my go-to. And unfortunately, I was rewarded for it out in the corporate world, for controlling things and manipulate, whatever you do out there. And so changing that is hard. And I'm trying. And now I realize, sit with it, accept it. It is what is what is. And I'm already starting to feel so much freedom by just not trying to change things. So thank you. And then if I could then take that to the place of love and metta, I think, I'm starting to see that fragrance of joy. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, it's a personal journey. Each of us pick it up where we pick it up. And then if we're honest, we know where that is. It's only the dishonesty in our mind that is trying to keep us from knowing the truth of our liberation. Someone else who would like to say something, add something to the circle?
Nicola?
Yeah, June.
I'd rather not be seen this morning, but
all good. Well, we'd love to hear your voice.
I love what you said about just sitting and being honest with yourself in truth. And I've been exploring being in touch with my anger. My whole life, people have told me, I'm one of those people that people think I'm perfect. Like, I grew up very docile, like daddy's favorite little girl, teacher's pet, you name it. And I realized that I had a lot of anger inside of me, and for various reasons, and just sitting with that, and it's been very interesting. Just being honest with myself about that, and I think that when you're honest with yourself, there's more room for the deeper things to enter. And what's happened is that what I realized was that anger is a good thing, actually. I think people should get angry because it's actually a very surface emotion that I feel that people who can't even get angry, it's like they're not even getting their toes wet, because people think that anger is like this huge, ugly emotion, but it's actually very superficial. And I think that the huge, amazing emotions the deeper emotions are joy, fulfillment, love. If you think of it like a bowl, it's like anger is at the very top. Even grief is surface. People think grief is so heavy, but these are the surface emotions, and the deep emotions that we want to get to are the love, joy, fulfillment at the bottom of the bowl. That's where we want to go. And so I encourage people now, my friends, family, loved ones. I have a sister-in-law who all of a sudden she could not walk. This happened very recently, which is very scary. Can you imagine one morning you just can't walk? And women suffer from autoimmune diseases. Because if you think about it, I'm a licensed acupuncturist. It's the body attacking oneself. So why do women get more thyroid problems? Why is it that millions of women are put on Synthroid every year? Women and girls, teenage girls. We're not expressing ourselves. Like, we need to express our anger. And I'm not saying like lash out at people. That's not what I mean at all, but in a healthy way. You know, in TCM, there's always a virtuous aspect to emotions. And the virtuous aspect of anger is actually passion. So like, yeah, get angry, but go out and maybe join a demo. I mean, maybe not now, but protest is a good thing. You know, things like that. I don't know, art, journaling, you know, channel your anger into passion, something passionate. So there is always a way, and the virtuous aspect of grief is hope. You know, and the good, you know, so there are all these emotions, you know, in the 5-element theory of Chinese medicine. So now what I'm doing is I'm encouraging women to feel it. You know, the issues are in the tissues. You know, arthritis and TCM, they say that it's due to anger being stuffed in the joints, things like that. Your emotions go to places in your body. You know, fear goes to your kidneys. I've heard of patients from my colleagues who had debilitating back pain. And when they got rid of the fear, their back pain miraculously went away. You know, there was just one practitioner who shared how he had treated a man for back pain. This gentleman had back pain for 12 years. And it turned out during the course of the treatment, he discovered that this man had witnessed a murder. Once they resolved that fear surrounding him, having that fear around what he had experienced emotionally, his back pain went away.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Jin.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to speak so long, but I feel this is very important for women not to be afraid of whatever it is that's inside of them. You know, it's okay. You know, take it all in and let it, you know, resolve it, process it, so that you could get to the things that really matter. You know, freedom, joy, these things that Nicola are speaking of, and Sydney.
Thank you for sharing. I would like to take now over because I would like to give Patience the opportunity to show her drawing, because we had that in the check-in. Is she available?
Oh, she's been waiting. I said she would have to mail them. Okay, so here's Nirmala.
I drew Nirmala.
Close.
Good.
Hearts.
Wonderful.
And you drew both of them. Well, everyone's doing yoga. And it's very light colors.
Oh,
Beautiful. Thank you for doing this. And
oh, this is the heart stuff for you. Hearts on your shirt.
so we are over time now, so I want to honor that, and I think it would be appropriate to respect your time, so that we are just closing this morning. Yeah. So let's bring our palms together. And then maybe throughout this day, you're just taking a few moments where you inhale light into your heart and you exhale light out into the world through your heart center. Just if you're in line at Trader Joe's or in the garden or somewhere meeting people, just allow light to come in and then send this light and share this with somebody else. Good. And with that, we tune out this morning. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you all for coming, for being there. Patience, thank you for your drawings. Have a beautiful weekend. We see you next week. Bye-bye. Stop the recording.